Mike McDaniel met with the media at the Combine, so I'm going to sit down and I'm going to react to it. Always going to be entertaining when Mike McDaniel's at the podium. What is up, Fin fans? Yes, Mike McDaniel's at the Combine. A lot of stuff going on at the Combine. The players haven't run yet. I think that's more towards the weekend. I don't know the exact dates off the top of my dome. Right now it is the 2nd of March. So probably, I think it starts on like the 3rd. I think it's the 3rd, the 4th. No, it goes to the 7th. So I think it's the 4th is when the players start doing their thing. And then we get the 40 times and all that sexy stuff. But now is a lot of the head coaches, the GMs, the owners talking to each other. Essentially tampering without letting anyone know that they're tampering. And you get a rough idea of, talking to agents, because the agents for the players you currently have under your roster are going to be agents for these guys that are also on the field doing the Combine. So you get a feel of, how much does Ogba want? Would he be willing to take this? What is Gesicki looking at? Okay, potential trade partners. You could talk to, well, you can't, but they talk to each other. And that's when all of a sudden all the rumors come out like, oh, so-and-so is interested in so-and-so in a trade option. So none of that news is broke yet. But Mike McDaniel did sit down with the media. We're going to live react to this. I haven't watched it yet. I did watch the first 10 seconds just now. And I hate watching press conferences where you can't hear the question. And it seems like this is one of them where we can't hear the question. So I'm going to try to guess my best at what the question is after he answers it. Before we jump into the Mike McDaniel video at the Combine, just so you know, I've tried to record this 4 different times and my microphone wasn't plugged in, and that's why the background colors are completely different. But anyway, Chris Grier also met with the media at the Combine today and had a few talking points that I'm going to get to. First and foremost being that they're not trading for Deshaun Watson. Said that door is closed and that is definite. So they are not trading for Deshaun Watson. So to everyone who really wants Deshaun Watson this year and keeps saying that Tua is a bust and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. Watson's coming. He's not coming. So take a deep breath. Sit back and prepare to watch Tua this year. And root for your team. I find it so funny that people will root against their team because they don't like the quarterback. It's kind of sad. But root for your team. Because Tua Tagovailoa is going to be your starting quarterback in 2022. But I'll talk about that. I'll talk about potential backups and all that stuff in another video. But he also came out and he said that they are in contract talks and they're making good advancements with Xavier Howard, and he's saying that a deal will get done to have a contract extension get done this offseason, which is huge. Xavier Howard's coming back, Byron Jones getting coached by Sam Madison, Patrick Surtain. Very big. We'll see if Byron stays. If they let Byron go, it's going to cost a lot of money. So I don't know if they're going to, trade Byron. But I think that's, again, that combination of him and Byron is a very good combination. So I'm excited to keep that part of the defense together, keep that secondary together, especially with Javon Holland and Brandon Jones. Tender Nick Needham if you need to. Keep that secondary together because they were really good this past season. He also talked about the fact that he is in more talks and it seems like more aggressive with Emmanuel Ogba than he is with Mike Gesicki. And I think that has to do with the fact that they can franchise tag Emmanuel Ogba. They can franchise tag Mike Gesicki for less money than it would cost to franchise tag Emmanuel Ogba. So I think that that's where that thought process is. $11 million versus a lot more for Emmanuel Ogba. And then the final thing he says is, I don't view this as a rebuild. And yes, no, this isn't a rebuild. This isn't like 2019 where we jettisoned a lot of talent. We're building up draft picks. This is something, Chris Grier is still continuing something he started 3 years ago. And they're not that far off to me. They need to add some pieces on the offensive line, the linebacking core, the wide receivers, and the running backs. And I think they'll be exactly where they need to be. But it depends on the pieces they add and how they do it. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see. But that's what Chris Grier had to say. Now let's get to what Mike McDaniel has to say. So let's jump into this Mamma Jam. It's about a 15 and a half minute video. So I'm going to slide over a scotch. I'm going to pop it up. Pam. And we're going to jump into this Mamma Jam. See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm like, what?
Well, I use a lot. I think that's a big part of my career, and working together, John and Kyle, is a great vision for how you want to have a working relationship between head coach and general manager. But I've used the analogy specifically with Kyle, like how do you describe a house without a foundation? And like abstractly, it's hard for me to kind of quantify or qualify exactly how much Kyle has meant to my career, because it set my foundation when I was truly learning how to become a coach. So everything that I've become at each step of the road, really, it's hard for me to kind of describe. All right, well, yeah, he's meant X. He's been part of the equation the entire time, and forever grateful for the opportunities he gave me, and the opportunities John Lynch gave me, and what the York family and San Francisco, they all did. So I can be a Miami Dolphin and take my talents to South Beach.
Throw a little LeBron James in there. So I think essentially the question they asked is, how much has Mike McDaniel, John Lynch meant to you, your career, yada yada. That's what I'm assuming. Again, we can't hear the questions. That drives me nuts. But yeah, Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan brought Mike McDaniel along with him every team he went to. So Kyle Shanahan had a big part in his career. Hopefully he learned a lot from him. Hopefully he learned to not do the bad things and all that stuff. But yeah, let's try to decipher the next question.
It's pretty much really it is completely different. It's more expansive. But just being ready for, really bearing witness to a lot of peers that have held this job in their first year being rookie head coaches. I kind of had an idea to expect the unexpected and to have an ever evolving checklist that you're never going to finish. And because I was prepared for that, really, then it's just applying what you've done at each stage in your career to a more expansive role. You have a job to do. In this job, I service a lot more people. It's a lot more expansive, but you have to be detailed. You have to be driven, and you have to serve a lot more people for them to do their job, and they're depending on you. But really approaching it the same way. The weeks have been diligent, and I probably get a little more tired at the end of the week. But other than that, it's been work that's been fun and very liberating and exciting.
I think they asked him essentially, what is the difference from coming to the combine as like an offensive coordinator versus a head coach? That's what I'm assuming they asked him. Again, it drives me nuts that I can't hear the questions. I could probably pull the transcript up but let me see if I can find the transcript. We'll say. So after looking, there's no transcript.
I think there's multiple ways to use players that have skill sets that can help you do things offensively. And we've had tight ends in our history that have been featured pass receivers, and we've had featured blockers. Both on both ends of the spectrum, they are expected and will do both things, majoring or minoring in one or the other, depending on their skill set. So I have no problem, no hesitation, or no concern of Mike being able to contribute as a blocker, and we'll use him the way it's most appropriate for him. As well, we'll do the same thing for him in the pass game, really.
So I think essentially they asked him there about Mike Gesicki and his lack of blocking, and they're trying to gauge if he's going to be a Dolphin, essentially in a nutshell. And they're, like I said, And from what I'm taking from Mike McDaniel and from what I'm taking from some of his breakdown of, his time with the 49ers, he probably isn't going to use Gesicki if Gesicki stays, which, again, I hope he does. He's not going to use him so much as a blocking tight end as more of a distraction, because there has been games and there has been film where he's taken Kittle and put him out wide, and it has distracted the defense to shift over defenders towards him, because Kittle one-on-one with the corner wide out is just a mismatch nightmare. You just toss it up, Kittle's going to catch it. So he'll probably use that as a distraction to kind of defer the defense towards that side and run the opposite way. And, more blockers versus more defenders. So I can see that happening. Again, if they keep him, it depends on his asking price and if they decide to franchise tag him.
I can tell you this much. We are looking for another quarterback. I've never seen in the history of the NFL having two on the roster, and that's very much important to us. You want a player that can help. When you're looking for a number two quarterback, there's two things. You want him to benefit the starting quarterback while the starting quarterback is the starting quarterback, and empower him with how they approach their daily game plan responsibilities and how they develop when you're training in the off season. But you also want a guy that can win games should this starter go down. So a veteran backup is definitely in our discussions, but it's the best player that we can find in whatever avenue, and move forward from there.
That's big, especially because unfortunately Tua has shown that he's not been able to stay healthy, whether it was his thumb twice. I think he hurt his hand last year, he hurt his hand this year, and then the broken rib took him out for 4 games because the Dolphins threw him on IR. And then we had to deal with Jacoby Brissett, who, again, didn't excel. A lot of people want to say, Tua was holding the offense back and da-da-da-da. Well, Jacoby didn't do any better because the offense was just as bad, if not worse, with Jacoby Brissett. If the Dolphins had a viable backup, somebody more aggressive, somebody, say Fitzpatrick stayed around, we probably would have won 3 of those 4 games that Tua went down and been in the playoffs. So it's very important to get a backup, and I will talk about a potential backup that I would like the Dolphins to get in my free agency video, because again, Tua has shown he can't stay healthy for the full year, and if it happens again this year, I said this past year, that is a negative and that is a detriment to his evaluation. The only way you can evaluate a player is if they're on the field. So if Tua again gets banged up, again misses games, playtime this year, that is a problem. I'm not going to make excuses for the quarterbacks because they're the quarterback and da-da-da. I'm tired of having injury-prone players. Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, Albert Wilson, you name them, I'm done with it. So, a lot of people want to, hey, what about Saquon Barkley? Hey, but what about Christian McCaffrey? If they can't show that they can stay healthy, I don't want them on the team. I'm tired of losing our best player in pivotal moments when we need them. So, again, having a backup is really good, and the name that I kind of want to go after would be very good to plug and play. But that's for a video coming out real soon.
Well, the value of the running back position, what value do you put on anywhere from a third to a half of the plays on a given offensive season? You got to realize running backs collectively, whether you do it part to whole or one guy, you have about 300 to 400 some touches by that position. So it's incredibly valuable. But there is a more diverse way of finding them. There's traditionally, from a historical perspective, there's rookie, second-year players, mid to late round drafts that have more success at that position than some others. But it's never been anywhere we've been, and for the Miami Dolphins moving forward, it's of paramount importance. We just have a concrete skill set that we found that can really flourish in a zone blocking system, really.
Makes me happy that he recognizes that. It's also very apparent that the fact that the Miami Dolphins have one running back under contract and Myles Gaskin, that they need to address that situation. But him being a run game coordinator, him understanding how important the run game is, I'm very interested to see how he goes about the approach to getting this running back. I would double dip. I'd go out and get vets. You know, if we do bring back Lindsey or Duke Johnson, I'm still, and again, you'll see in the free agent video, I'm still bringing another vet in, and I'm drafting one. You know, I'm not to give a little spoiler, but that Texas A&M running back, I think it's Texas A&M running back. I'm really liking him potential in the second round. So I'm double dipping. We need a good running game. It's pivotal.
No, I think much of what we've all done in our career on our different branches, we've all had the same starting point, and I think from a foundational standpoint, our language will be the same. So in terms of how you communicate, how you identify, there's a little nuance change here and there from like a formation, but from the starting point, our foundations are very similar. I think one of the strengths of the Dolphins, with the offensive coaching staff we have here, and with my contribution, I think we will adapt in ways that's impossible for me to even forecast right now. Just like in years previous, I haven't predicted ever what we were going to look in October in training camp. So it's important to establish a foundation to know where our starting points will be, and where our convictions and emphasis will be, and then you let the players dictate the terms from there. And I think that's the best way to serve players and for players to serve coaches and schemes.
I think he was talking about continuity.
It's a huge one for me. I think he really influenced how I look at leadership from a head coaching position. I just got done telling the story a second ago, but my first year in the NFL was 2005, and I was an offensive intern. And the entire season, I remember like it was yesterday, like I was convinced we were winning the Super Bowl. And his bravado and his conviction and how he set people's ambition, we were winning the Super Bowl. We were that good. And we went to the AFC Championship game and lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But about 5 or 6 years down the road, as I had a better scope of the National Football League in general, I looked player by player at that roster, and I was like, wow, we were a much better team than we were individuals. And that idea of raising people's ambition and leading by just a vision of I don't know, perspective, but also just a clean way of handling yourself on a day-to-day basis and empowering people with confidence, that will be forever lasting for me as a coach. And really, as I walk the hallways in Miami Gardens these past couple weeks, it has resonated with me those days. That's been a very cool process too, because there was about 4 to 5 weeks ago that I didn't know any of them. So
I think he's talking about the players.
one of the things I majored in when I was first talking through this interview process and thinking about this job is I watched a lot of the defense, because I knew I knew I had an idea of the direction that I wanted to go with coaches on the offense, but I as a head coach, you're responsible for everything. Mm-hmm. So I watched a ton of the defensive tape, and it reminded me quickly of what I hated in 2020 when I played when Miami Dolphins beat the team I was coaching on easily. Mm-hmm. And it was that the scheme was outstanding. There were some really core young players that had been developing and that were passionate. And bottom line is I was like, yeah, I would rather play with them than against them. I don't want to play that. So in that process, I've got to know Josh, and We have a very transparent and good working relationship. We like the idea of challenging each other, and I'm excited about it because, again, I don't have. It's one less issue that, from an offensive coach perspective, that I have to go against, and I'm excited about the growth that defensive staff can do this season moving forward, and the players that the defensive staff can coach.
I think that's probably one of the reasons that he kept Josh Boyer, is because he saw in 2020, again, defensive coordinator, what he can do against his own team, against his own offense. Yeah, they were a little banged up. They took Jimmy Garoppolo out. I don't think Kittle was playing, but he saw that 47-13. Like, we beat the crap out of the 49ers. So I think that might be also one of the reasons why he kept Boyer, because, a lot of people hear what Ross said, and it wasn't pushed on the head coach to stick with the defense. It was just they were kind of wanted it to happen, but it was up to the head coach, and he decided to keep him.
Uh-huh. Well, that was a great thing about Kyle is Kyle was very accountable, that he knew every play that went in, he was ultimately responsible for. That being said, he was also very very committed to giving me responsibility and empowering me and trusting me. So there was always discourse, probably since, 2014 or 15, and it grew as time went on, and, I got better at my job, but there was always discourse, throwing a percentage out. Probably not going to do that, but we were talking about plays constantly, and I've for years been putting myself in that position in terms of mentally how to call a game, so that once I got this opportunity, that I wouldn't be freaked out and lose all my hair and turn gray. So I'm excited about it. It's going to be awesome.
I think essentially what they're asking him is, he's going to be calling the offense. The offense coordinator and him are going to get together. They're going to come with a game plan. It's probably going to be the same situation he had with Kyle Shanahan, where essentially they got together, they came together with a game plan, and then, he'll chime down to Kyle and be like, hey, what do you think about da-da-da-da, or we should run this play here, and Kyle's like, okay, yeah, I like that, we'll do that, or I think we should go with this. I think it's a collaborative effort, so I think, they're asking him, how do you feel calling plays for the first time? And that's what I think his answer is, which we'll see. That's all we can do at this point. We'll see. I'm hoping he turns things around. I'm hoping the team, because I've said before, this team has talent. We just got to get coached better, and we'll see if the coaches he had can elevate the talent that we have on this team. I hate that I can't hear the questions. It drives me nuts.
Important, and yes, versatility is outstanding. You can create mismatches. It allows a lot of different layers and different things that an offensive coach and an offense can do to keep a defense off balance. I desire to have a lot of first-team All-Pros. That is paramount to me looking good as a coach, is awesome players. Without a doubt. You're always but you don't look at it like I need the next Debo. Debo wasn't found by looking for Debo. You look for good football players that are committed, passionate, and maybe that challenges you as a coach to see, hey, what other way can we utilize this skill set?
I love that he said that. Everyone keeps saying, oh, I think Lynn Bowden will be the Debo on our team, or I think he'll use Waddle like Debo. And I love that answer that he just gave, that they weren't looking for Debo Samuel when they got Debo Samuel. It's not like, oh, we found our Debo Samuel and Debo Samuel. I don't know how many times I said his name in 2 sentences. And I love that, because don't try to put somebody in a situation that you want them to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've consistently for the past 23 years been looking for the next Dan Marino, and that isn't helping, and that isn't working. We should be looking for the next blah, you know? Because I'm pretty sure the Chargers weren't looking for the next Philip Rivers, Drew Brees. I cannot remember the life of me the name of the quarterback that the Dolphins played in the longest game in NFL history. Dan, it's right there on the tip of my tongue. I'll probably blur it out later. They just drafted the guy that they knew had talent, and now Justin Herbert. So I love that response. They're not looking for this. They have Waddle. Everyone wants a Waddle. Everyone wants the type of player that Waddle is. So they already have that type of player. And Lynn Bowden will be Lynn Bowden, and Gesicki will be Gesicki. We're not trying to find this. We're just trying to use what we have. Dan Deerdorf.
As confident as one can be with multiple variables that you can't control. Like, I'm excited about the guy. I'm excited about the opportunity. I know we want him. We're going to do our best to get him. And it's the same thing you have to do every time you have situations such as these. You know, you have to be able to adjust if you're unable to keep him. But our hope is that that is not the case. And if you're texting him right now, you can tell him as such. Good. The benefit is that the coaches, specifically myself, will know all the players a lot better than all the coaches that didn't go. Those that are my friends. It is whatever you put into it. There's workarounds. You don't have to be at it. You can do a lot of different things. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, I think, is what I've heard. I've never seen that, but I know that's a saying. And as long as you do your due diligence, it's not a must, but I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing people face to face. It's a part of the process I enjoy, and I know Chris enjoys, so that's why we're here.
It's just funny. Different atmosphere, different type of coach than Brian Flores. I just thought it's just funny. You know, he's hands-on type of coach. I don't know why I couldn't get that out. And he's at the combine essentially to meet the players, get to know them more than just watching tape, going to pro days. It's more hands-on here. You're able to sit down, have conversations. There's some players that have already met with the Dolphins. I'll talk about that in another video, and all that. So it's good. And I thought it was funny. He said that he'll have more of a knowledge and more of an understanding than some of his co-coaches that aren't there. Funny.
Oh. First of all, every conversation I have is meaningful, okay? I'm present. But we've had a great
talk about X.
We've had several great conversations on phone and in person. And so I'm excited to coach the guy, but let's not forget, like, it is what it is. You know, I honestly, me personally, I don't have a crystal ball, you know, but really the only guys I can talk about are the players that are here today.
Because if you watch the podcast that he was on the phone with him, he said essentially, there's these tropes and there's these things that are every coach says. And he was like, you think you can get some of them in on your press conference at the combine? And he was like, I'm going to get all of them in. So he does, and gives them a high five. And some people got butthurt that he did that while talking about Xavier Howard. But he talked about Xavier Howard. He said he's having a good relationship with him. He's talked to him on the phone multiple times. He has talked to him in person multiple times. End of statement. right there. End of statement. Then he went into the Rich Eisen thing. So to the people who are getting a little butthurt and a little sensitive over the fact that he attached his joke to to the statement that was asked, just take a breath. You can't be too serious, especially with this coach. But again, I like listening to Mike McDaniel talk. He's not so stern. I like that he throws his jokes in every once in a while. But I like that he is serious, and you could tell he's serious in what he's saying. So again, this is all frosting on the cake. I just made that analogy up. I need to see what he could do with the players. I'm my first inkling, and my first that's, if you ever watch me and you've been with the channel for a lot, that's kind of a saying and a reaction that I do a lot is, okay. Like, if I like something so far and you've intrigued me, and now I'm okay, what else he got there? Okay. So I want to see who he brings in free agency. That's when he'll get his first okay from me. Then I want to see the draft. And then that's when all of a sudden I'm like, okay, these are the players that he's going to incorporate. These are the schemes that he's going to do. He's smart with his decision making. Coach him up. And then once we start winning and not go on a 7-game losing streak, overall, like his press conference. Let's see what he can do. Like I said, I'm going to start talking about players that they've interviewed. They've already talked to one wide receiver that I think is going to be very interesting. So we'll delve more into that as it goes on. The combine, I think, goes to the 7th. So it is now the 2nd. We have about 5 more days of the combine. Like I said, this weekend is kind of when they start going into drills, 40-yard dash, broad jump, all that stuff. So you're going to get a ton of videos this weekend, and then next week, 14th, 15th is a tampering period, 16th is start free agency. I don't take a break. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Other than that, guys, see you in the next video. Like usual, stay classy. Fins up.